What is up? It is your allies behind enemy lines coming to you from thoroughly behind enemy lines. Two Redskins fans, two Washington football team fans, Ryan and Joey, holding it down in Cowboy territory down here in Texas. Back with another edition. A lot of stuff to unpack today. A lot of news and notes. Finally, some good, a lot bad. Not a lot, but one really bad thing. Joey, how's it going this week, bub?
It's going good. Here coming bright and early for you on the Thursday to bring you the latest and greatest information on our Washington football team. So thank you all for watching the game.
Absolutely. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it because there's a lot to unpack. Obviously, last week, I believe it was Friday, Darius Geis he turns himself in to authorities because he was charged on three different counts of domestic abuse. One of them being strangulation. And when it first came out, you saw the picture of him turning himself in and getting arrested. I texted you immediately. It was like, oh, this is not going to be good. And sure enough, about an hour later, Darius Geis was no longer a member of the team. And I think, it's a bummer for him. Obviously, it's bigger than football right now. There's a lot of stuff obviously going on outside of football. But since we are a football podcast, we'll go ahead and talk about that. There's a lot of hope for him coming in since his rookie year. Obviously, he had the knee injury his rookie year. Started the season, played about 5 or 6 games last year before getting injured again. So, he really had a lot to prove in this third year, and there was a lot of hope for him, a new regime, new head coach, new system for him that hopefully he was going to be able to flourish in. And then he goes and does this, and, he's no longer a part of the team in Washington, and it'll be interesting to see if he ever steps foot on a football field in the NFL again.
If any of these allegations are true, I think that we might not see him ever again because strangled from what I'm sure you've read the same articles talking about strangled his ex-girlfriend or whatever to a point of unconsciousness. That's you say stuff like that, that's just uncalled for. Does not have any room in the NFL for the kind of example we're trying to set for the standards of NFL players and a Washington football player. And kids that watch this are going to they have to have the idols they look up to and people they want to emulate to be solid role models. And Darius Geis, we've talked about it before. He had his uncertainties, I should say, coming out of college with his maturity issues. And he had been doing, it seemed like he'd been doing everything right other than the injuries. Obviously, we haven't really seen him get a solid season, but he really embraced, it seemed like he embraced being a Washington Redskin at the time and was saying all the right things, was working hard. He seemed like a very positive person from just his social media presence is all we've really seen, and interviews here and there. But I guess there is this whole dark side going on behind closed doors, like which we hardly don't know, and it seems he has a lot more maturing to do. And this is if anything, when you come out, like I think we've talked about that, when you come out with this microscope on you, having these doubts and uncertainties with maturity issues, you got to be extra good. You have to be an extra model, football player and an extra model teammate, an extra model citizen, because people took a chance on you, and you want to reward them for taking that chance. And at some point, he just cared about he didn't care about the chance he was given, the Washington football team, or about football.
Yeah, for sure. And, I thought coming out, like you said, because he did have some character concerns to begin with coming out. And I was hoping maybe it would be, kind of along the lines of a honey badger, Tyrann Mathieu, who had same character concerns, but all he was doing was just smoking a little weed. It wasn't anything crazy. And then we've seen him turn into one of the best, most dynamic defensive football players, on the scene right now. And the fact that, like you said, it happened 3 times. It happened 3 consecutive months. Started in February, happened again in March, and happened again in April. So it wasn't like just a one-time thing where he loses his cool, an Ocho Cinco or a Kareem Hunt or guys we've seen like that. Obviously Ray Rice, and that's not excusing it, saying one time is too much too, but as a human being, you can sometimes you understand guys losing their temper. It happens to everybody. You see Ocho Cinco; he's one of the greatest dudes that we've seen, and he lost his temper, and it cost him his NFL career, even though he's on the tail end anyway. Same with Ray Rice. But the fact that it was a pattern of it happening over and over and over again, that's where it just becomes absolutely unexcusable, and where you have to definitely separate yourself from the situation. And like you mentioned, the articles and stuff out there is. I don't know if you call it the testimony or whatever, the statement that his ex-girlfriend gave was she was getting choked out by him and passed out, and then she woke up to him like shaking her, and he was in tears, probably because he thought he just killed her. You know what I mean? Like that's how bad it was. Like he thought he just killed somebody because he was trying to wake her up and make sure that he didn't. So I mean, this is brutal. The facts will come out. He'll have his day in court, but you can't, as a Washington football team, when you're trying to turn over a new leaf, when you're trying to change your image and start things anew, you have to distance yourself from a situation like this immediately. Doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what role you play on this team. You absolutely got to distance yourself and just kind of get rid of the situation by cutting Darius Guice like they did. And I think it was the right call, and they did it rather swiftly.
Yes, and I saw a statement come out. You probably saw the same thing from his agent. I think it was his agent or maybe his attorney.
Yeah, it was his. Yeah.
Talking about how they acted based upon without fact, and then what happened to innocent until proven guilty. And just like you said, though, when you're trying to rebrand an image, when you're trying to restart a culture within a football team, you don't have any room for these type of hiccups. We've had enough distractions with the name change. We've had enough distractions. We have a new coach. We have enough distractions with the state of the football world right now. And not to mention the whole Daniel Snyder thing going on. We've had enough distractions to take people's eye off of what we're trying to do on the football field. And if you're Darius Guice, you can't sit there and blame. There'd be any type of honesty within yourself. You cannot look at them and think that they've done you wrong. They have, I'm sure they've provided anything. The Washington or any football team provides you with anything you need to be successful within their organization, especially when they're your second round pick. And for him to be able to do that 3 times without reaching out and talking to anybody, or like he said, everybody makes a mistake maybe one time, and what you do next is a definition of you. If you continue to make that same mistake, it shows character, and I think right there we know that Darius Guice needs some serious help and some serious internal growth before he can think about even trying to come back to football.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's a great point. After it happens the first time, he absolutely should have been able to reach out to somebody in the organization and been like, "Hey, look, this is what happened. Either I need help, fixing it, like, making sure that doesn't happen again, or, I need help learning about myself to, figure out why this is happening." But no, that's a great point. Another thing you brought up too was obviously the whole front office situation. And I want to pose this question to you. I think I know I'll know your answer, but if that whole controversy didn't happen with the front office, the sexual assault allegations, things like that, do you think they still cut him and release him as quickly as they do?
I think they do, just because I think that's
I do too.
I think it's just the tone of our, not to mention the football of our country right now. Our tolerance for any type of behavior, violence towards women, violence towards children, has reached a tipping point. And I think every institution, organization has almost a zero tolerance policy, which I agree with.
Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. No, but I 100% agree. I think they still do the same thing, and cut him as quickly as they did. Literally, like within the hour of it happening, Ron Rivera said, "Sorry, bud, we don't have a place for you here." And good on him. Like you said, doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter where you're drafted, what position you play. There just ain't any room for it, and they're not going to stand for it. So I obviously wish Darius Guice the best of luck in his personal life. Just hopefully being able to overcome some of these demons, and he can figure out what is the root and cause of all this. Unfortunately, if it all holds up, he might have to be doing a lot of that learning behind bars, and kind of have some self-reflection there. But you obviously the first that's the other thing too, real quick before we transition, is everyone always wants to label these guys monsters immediately. And look, like I said, what he's done is absolutely terrible. Yeah, absolutely. But there is still some room for some personal growth. There is still some room for, taking a look at yourself and saying, "Hey, what the hell is that? Why did I do this? What's going on?" You look at a guy like Greg Hardy. Yeah, probably a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like, he did it multiple times, time and time again, and did some terrible, terrible things. But there's you got to take it by case situation. And because Darius Guice had those character concerns coming out just from an immaturity standpoint, and then he looked like he was kind of building his way towards being a better person, and then he slips up again, you got to know that there's something in him where he can grow and he can become a better person. You know what I mean? So I still wish him the best of luck. Like I said, I don't know if we ever see him on the field again, but just as a whole, 2 years of seeing a guy on social media and rooting for him and hoping the best for him, in that matter, you still got to root for him, when he's off the field and he's not suiting up for your team too, especially when he's going through something like this.
Yeah, definitely. We don't wish him no ill will. Definitely, he's a young person, everyone makes everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes in life. The magnitude is always, and I use the same thing when I talk with the kids I work with. It's always what you do next. What you do
Hmm.
next is what defines you. So he's made these setbacks. He's had these, charges brought against him. Now he's gonna be the man and face the proverbial music and get what's coming to him. And then what does he do next? Can he? He can. I'm sure with someone that he still has a platform, even though it's tarnished. He still has a platform. If he can overcome this, he can be an inspiration and growth to people that are suffering from whatever is causing him to do these types of things. So it's always what you do next. There's his life with football might not be over. Maybe with on the actual field, he can maybe come back and help kids coach or whatever. So there's so much more he can do in his life. Hopefully he uses this as a stern wake up call. And like you said, we wish him the best of luck.
Absolutely. Now, on the flip side of that, kind of a funny, not funny, kind of ironic situation. The day after we cut and release Darius Geis, we activate Reuben Foster off the IR, or the physically unable to perform list, one of those two. Obviously, Reuben Foster got tied up in some legal troubles last year. That's how we were able to claim him, because the
Year before,
Buccaneers,
actually, 2 years
or the
ago.
year before, that's right, yeah, the year before. The Buccaneers cut him after he had allegations brought against him, but he never made it to court.
The
The
49ers, wasn't it
accuser,
49ers?
or the 49ers, yes, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
the 49ers.
yeah.
They cut him, and the accuser either didn't want to help in the investigation. Maybe she wasn't telling the truth completely, but either way, his name was cleared of any and all allegations. So even though a guy is named or brought up in things like this, he's given another chance again with the Washington football team, and so we activate him. And I bring that up, like I said, because it's a little yin and yang there. Of we cut a guy for domestic violence issues, and another guy whose name was caught up in them. Obviously, he was cleared after, and we signed him before he even had his day in court. We
Mm-hmm.
scooped him up off waivers, and so we didn't even take the chance, or we took the chance of, maybe he is going to be found guilty. And so it's just kind of funny how those two things, like I said, I keep saying the word funny, but ironic how those two things lined up, literally one after the other, as far as cutting Darius Geis and activating Reuben Foster. But I bring him up, Reuben Foster, because he's just another absolute animal on the beast. He's adding to that front seven. It's probably going to be the best front seven. If they play up to their potential, it's going to be the best front seven in football.
Hands down. Hands down. I mean, and like you said, it is ironic that because I think Reuben Foster took Darius Geis's roster spot. I mean, I think that's.
Oh, did he?
I think he literally took. I think he literally took Darius Geis's roster spot, and as you said, he did have some allegations, and the Redskins did take a chance on him, which he ended up proving as a great chance because he did get cleared of charges. And whether or not these allegations were true, there was character concerns with the alleged victim, and whether or not that what her part was in all this. So again, we could have been dealing with a very immature couple right there that were just trying to call the cops on each other, which if anyone's had experience with immature couples at that age, that could have been an issue. So who knows what really happened there. And again, just as the agent said, it's innocent until proven guilty, and nothing really came of that. So hopefully for Reuben Foster, that was that wake-up call, and since then we haven't heard a peep out of him, in which he's had a lot of time, off the field to be able to, enough rope to quote unquote hang himself, and he has not used that for such. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to the team. And like you said, the middle linebacker position has been such a question mark for us over the years. Since London Fletcher, we have not had a solid piece in there. And I'm so excited that we have somebody who, again, he played. I mean, he was right alongside Jonathan Allen, was he not that year? Those were the two picks I wanted that year for our defense, was Reuben Foster and Jonathan Allen. And now we have them both on the same defense. You add Deron Payne, you add Matt Ioannidis, you add Chase Young, you add Montez Sweat, Cole Holcomb, one of the most underrated rookies last year. And this defense, Thomas Davis with his, leadership in that linebacker room now. They're the sky's the limit for these guys. Like you said, if they play up even to 80% of their potential, I think they're going to easily be the best defensive front in the NFC.
And not only do we have the NFC, I think in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
not only do we have dudes at every position, but then we have depth. You named more than 7 guys there, like you said. We can still throw Ryan Kerrigan in there. I mean, he's still going to get his sacks. He's still going to be able to pressure the quarterback. He's still going to over pursue the quarterback or push that quarterback up in the pocket. So hopefully Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne can be there. You know what I mean? He's always going to do that. That's what he's good for. He's always
Ryan
like a
Kerr.
half.
I was
No,
just
go
gonna say
ahead.
Ryan. I was just gonna say Ryan Kerrigan's never had help. He's never been. He's always been. You stop Ryan Kerrigan, you pretty much stop their pass rush. And now he might. I'm not gonna say he's the weakest link of the pass rush, but he's definitely not the quickest. You have
Yeah.
Montez Sweat, you have Chase Young on the coming off those edges, and Ryan Kerrigan can come play cleanup. Once those guys demolish all the blockers. So it's interesting to see how that will affect Ryan Kerrigan.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. But yeah, so like you named him, Ryan Kerrigan, Montez Sweat, Chase Young coming off the edge, and one guy that never gets mentioned is Matt Ioannidis, and I think he's probably, him and Jonathan Allen are 1 and 1A as far as our defensive tackles. I think he set himself above Deron Payne. And even though Deron Payne has all the talent in the world and all the potential in the world, I still think Matt Ioannidis, as of right now, obviously been in the league a little bit longer. I would put him ahead of Deron Payne right now. So the fact that we have those 2 defensive tackles and then another absolute animal behind him and Deron Payne, I mean, yeah, that's absolutely great. Tim Settle, he can still wait. Was Tim Settle one of the guys that opted out,
No,
or
that
was
was
he? Is he still?
that was Caleb Brantley, I believe.
Oh yeah. You're
Yeah,
right. Caleb Brantley. Okay, so we still have Tim Settle. I still think he can do something. He's just a big ass dude in there. He was good in college, played well. But yeah, linebackers. I mean, Ryan Anderson. He hasn't been what we thought he was going to be. Reuben Foster, obviously aforementioned. Cole Holcomb. Cole Holcomb kind of reminds me of like the Will Compton, the Mason Foster, kind of an undersized guy, but he gets the job done. Real. I think he's better than both of them, but real like gritty. He gets after that middle linebacker position. So I mean, this front 7 is going to be absolutely sick. We should hopefully, and our secondary improved a bunch this year. So
Mm-hmm.
we've seen numerous times that if you can pressure the quarterback and get to the quarterback and make his job tough in the front 7, your secondary is just living large. You know what I mean? And we've seen numerous times where we don't have a pass rush and we don't have pressure on the quarterback, and so our secondary is just getting absolutely eaten up. You know what I mean? So hopefully that's. That kind of works hand in hand, but I think our defense has a great chance to be something special.
They do, and like you said, the secondary, bringing back Kendall Fuller, Fabian Moreau, the island of Fabian Moreau. This could be his year to break out. Greg Stroman had a really good breakout year last year. Landon Collins, the huge signing we have over for the Giants. He didn't really have the year we wanted last year, but he can be set for a good year, especially with this front 7. And then, we talked about him last week, Sean Davis bringing him over for the Steelers. But I want to throw something out for you, that someone that's out there in free agency, and I actually read an article about him the other day and how he's still unsigned. And that's Logan Ryan.
Okay.
And from Tennessee, and he's always historically been known as a cornerback, and I think we're pretty set at the cornerback position. I don't think he'd add a lot to that. But his free agency and him himself have come out and said that he is a safety, that he wants to play safety. So do you think someone like that would be a piece we could bring into that secondary to really solidify? Because I know we have even though we have some good players there, do we have the solid, secondary that as we're talking about the front 7 being solid? Do you see the same thing in our secondary? Do you think bringing in someone like that could really add to that, or do you think?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think that would be a great addition if he can, play free safety for us. Because I'm still not sold on DeShazer Everett. I still think he's very underperforming. I hope we cut Troy Apke. No offense, Troy, if you're listening. We gave it a good run. We gave it a good try.
But he's a Madden legend. He's a Madden legend.
I'll take your word for it. To me, he's Reed Doughty 2.0. That's what he is to me. Reed Doughty 2.0 is just like, and that's not just because they're both white. You know what I mean? Like they're both they're just always getting eaten up and burned. So I hope we can cut him. So yeah, I mean that would free up a spot there for Logan Ryan. And like I said, he was a great corner. So a lot of times that transition to safety, to free safety, can be pretty easy for these guys. But you mentioned Kendall Fuller. I mean, we also brought in Ronald Darby. Proven corner for in the NFL. And in the NFL, Aaron Colvin's had a couple good years. Stroman played very well for us. Greg Stroman, Jimmy Moreland. I mean, we have some guys that have played well for us already, and obviously some signings that added to that. But I still think if you can get veteran presence and a guy that's done it already, shoot, do it. I mean, we tried it with D'Angelo Hall. That didn't work. So I hope that doesn't deter anybody from trying it again with Logan Ryan. Granted, D'Angelo Hall is already on our roster and we just shifted him over. But still, yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of times we've seen where corners can shift to free safety and they can just live because they're not focusing on just covering one dude. They're just covering a whole lot of space and they're still quick. They're still fast. So, I mean, I would love that.
I mean, Charles Woodson, one of the best examples I can say.
Yeah.
I mean, he was. I almost remember him more as a safety than a cornerback now. Just the career he had as a safety after he stopped being a corner. So I would be willing to take the chance there, and especially if we can see these deals now are getting smaller and smaller. These 1 year deals that we saw the Cowboys sign. Was it Everson Griffith last night for only $6 million for 1 year 6? I could easily see getting Logan Ryan on a 1 year prove it deal for something similar or even lower than that. So,
2.5, 3 million, something like that. Yeah.
And definitely with the salary cap we have right now, I would take the chance, So if this anybody's watching out there, go get Logan Ryan.
Yeah. So no, yeah, I agree. That'd be a great addition for us. So you went ahead and mentioned it. We were going to get to it eventually, but yeah, the Everson Griffin signing. As we've talked about before, we're obviously going to cover a lot of Washington football team, but obviously we have to cover stuff that's going on in our division, anything that directly or indirectly affects us. And this Everson Griffin signing is going to affect us if we play football this year. I mean, dude is a premier pass rusher. Great defensive lineman for the Vikings over the past few years, and we've seen the Cowboys. They've invested a lot of money in their defense, their defensive line the last few years. I mean, their defense as a whole. They re-signed DeMarcus Lawrence for a big time deal. They re-signed Jalen Smith. All the other Jalen's are going through my head. Jalen Ramsey, Jalen Hurts, Jalen, all these except for Jalen Smith. The most common last name, I couldn't get Jalen Smith. So I mean, they already have like some good pieces. They still need a lot of help in their secondary, which they've needed for like the last 3 to 5 years. But this Everson Griffin signing is going to be huge. If they have him on one side and DeMarcus Lawrence on the other side, I mean, those are going to be two guys. We talked about our front seven. Yeah, we have a complete front seven, but these two edge rushers could really cause some problems for Washington and for anybody else the Cowboys sign if both guys can stay healthy. Obviously, DeMarcus Lawrence had his Corona rant, a couple of weeks ago where he said he wasn't sure if he was going to play, and he had some injury issues last year. But if both those guys are on the field at the same time, that's going to be some problems.
There's definitely going to be some problem. That they're both at 100%, like you did mention. DeMarcus Lawrence, I don't think was DeMarcus Lawrence that we've come to realize last year. But if he returns to his previous form, and then you couple that with Everson Griffith on the other side, then Dwayne Haskins and our offensive line is going to be in trouble. So the Cowboys have it's almost as they're slinging money around again. Like they feel like they're going almost all in. The one key signing we haven't seen with them is Dak Prescott. Obviously, we know Jerry Jones ain't shy of writing checks. I think he said yesterday, my hand doesn't cramp from writing checks, or however he put it. But he hasn't written the most important one, which is that quarterback position. So I'm very interested to see how that, because, I mean, and I know, as we dealt with the Kirk Cousins situation for 2 years on that franchise tag, it affects how they play on the field. Kurt was stat chasing like no other those 2 years when he was on that franchise tag. And I think Dak Prescott is really wants to prove that he's the guy, that he's the man. And when you have that, some say that that's a good thing, but sometimes it can be too much. You're trying to do too much out there, and it can really backfire on you. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all these signings, coupled together. As I've always said, you're not going to buy yourself a Super Bowl in the NFL. No big signings. No big signings have ever won a Super Bowl. I'll sit here and wait as you can try to research and look it up for me. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. These teams that win Super Bowls are built on team chemistry and people that can hold it together for 16 games and make a run in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see how these Cowboys mesh together.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we look at the best Patriots team we've seen, and it was, when they went undefeated and they had Randy Moss. Obviously they made it to the Super Bowl, but they didn't win it. You're 100% right. The NFL is one of the few sports where big free agent signings don't guarantee you, even a spot in the Super Bowl. So you're right there. But hopefully, not hopefully, but we'll see how this works out with Everson Griffin. it's obviously a prove-it deal for him. He's going to try to ball out. So, he's going to be kicking into extra gear because once everything hopefully returns back to more certain times like we're used to, come 2021, he's going to be looking for that big-time money that he was hoping to get this year. So that's the other thing that you got to factor in is you got to assume he's got to have an extra gear, and he's going to be going a little bit harder than he usually does, and so that does spell trouble for the NFC East and for anybody else the Cowboys may face in the NFC. But it's true. You're right about hitting the nail. You hit the nail on the head about the free agent signings. Amari Cooper was a big time trade. He's kind of meshed well with them, but signing Dak is what they absolutely have to do to kind of ensure that they can keep seeing continued success. Obviously, we don't want that. We don't want continued success for them, but it's a big piece for them that they're going to have to figure out sooner rather than later.
Yes.
One thing. Go ahead. Keep going. Keep it rolling.
I was just gonna say, and that's the difference, like you said, that he's gonna the extra gear on defense. It's good to have that extra gear because you're just solid trying to make plays. On offense, it can make you to force some decisions. So 2 different extra gears on that side, and we'll see how they affect the different sides of the ball.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. So one thing I wanted to touch on, I was looking at my notes here, and I wanted to mention it before when we were talking about Darius Guice, is obviously the running back room. We would talk about depth of our front 7 and how many dudes we have there. Well, the fortunate thing about getting rid of a guy like Darius Guice right now is we have a pretty strong running back room. I'll list off the names right now. Obviously, everyone knows Adrian Peterson, Antonio Gibson, who we drafted, and then we brought on Peyton Barber from Tampa Bay. Bryce Love, we drafted a couple years back from Stanford. He started all last year with a knee injury, and then J.D. McKissick, who he's kind of bounced around the league. Most recently, I believe, with the Lions. So I mean, we have a good running back room. Obviously, we're not going to carry 5 running backs. 1 or maybe 2 of those guys are going to be the odd man out. I'm assuming AP is probably going to have the starting job coming into it, and Antonio Gibson's going to be. I'm assuming. I think he's going to be on the roster regardless because he's going to kind of be a Swiss Army knife of sorts. So who do you think is going to be the starter, and who do you think are going to be the odd guys out here?
To be honest, I've just had this conversation with I don't even remember, I thought it was you, but I guess we had talked about it. But Adrian Peterson for sure is going to be our workhorse. He's going to be the one that goes out there and he wants the ball every down. He always has been that way. I think he's going to be given that chance. And I look at it as 3rd down backs, and I look at it as power backs. And I think we have our top 3 there would be Adrian Peterson. Then behind him would be Peyton Barber, and then McKissick behind him 3rd, as far as our every down grinding in between the numbers backs. Then I look at 3rd down backs, guys that kind of come in, like you said, that's the Swiss Army knives, and I kind of put Bryce Love and Antonio Gibson in that same category. Like you said, I think Antonio Gibson will get the nudge because he can do so much more than Bryce Love so far. We don't know. But I think if one had to go from that group, I'm going to think it's going to be McKissick, just because we have Bryce Love. And we haven't really seen what he can do. McKissick has tape. We know what he's done in the league. Bryce Love really hasn't had a chance for that platform yet. And I think he has a higher ceiling than McKissick has. And I think Peyton Barber, I mean, I've had him on fantasy before, and he's been solid. He's not going to give you, he's not going to give you 30 points, but he's going to give you 12 points every single time. He's going to get, he's going to get the ball. He's going to get his yards. He's going to get those 3rd-and-1s, those touchdown runs. And so I really think he's someone that's really going to complement Adrian Peterson well. So I'm really excited about that. It's not a huge signing. It's not an expensive signing. Him and Adrian Peterson, I think we might have one of the most budget backfields in the NFL with talent. You know what I mean? It's not saying we have budget with no talent. I think we have a great, budgeted backfield with guys that can go out there and want to play. And so to answer your question, I think that McKissick would be the one on the bubble. If 2 had to go, I'm afraid to probably have to be Bryce Love.
Yeah, no, I agree with the McKissick pick. Like you said, we've kind of already seen what he can do in the league. There's a reason why he's kind of bounced around. But I mean, at the same time, kind of like we mentioned with Dontrell Inman. I mean, if you're bouncing around from team to team and guys are still signing you, obviously there's something you can offer. But in this backfield, because it's young, because we have guys that have done it for a long time, like Adrian Peterson, Peyton Barber, not as long, but he did see some good success in Tampa Bay alongside who was it? Ronald Jones out there.
Yeah.
And so, but I think you laid it out perfectly where it's Adrian Peterson and Peyton Barber, kind of the every down backs. I think Antonio Gibson and Bryce Love will be involved in the return game quite a bit. And Bryce Love was electric in college, man. He wasn't, the level that Christian McCaffrey was at Stanford, but they really didn't miss a beat once he left. I mean, because like they just handed him the ball 30, 40 times a game, and he ran over everybody. He ran by a lot of guys, made a lot of guys miss. So I'm hoping he gets healthy and can return to that form, because if he does, I mean, that's just going to be another weapon that, another young weapon that hopefully the Redskins can, or excuse me, the Washington football team can use. And, we've seen it time and time before where we kind of take a chance on these injured guys and they don't really pan out. But I'm still going to hold out hope, because I've done it before. So why stop now? Why give up hope now? With Bryce Love, that's, we can hope that he returns to form and can be, another electric piece that we can add to this backfield. But, I don't know. I think he's still eligible for practice squad, but I think if he got signed to the practice squad, he'd probably get scooped up by somebody. So they're probably going to find a way. I mean, 4 running backs is a lot to carry, but if we're only carrying 2 quarterbacks, maybe we have an extra spot for them. But that's yet to be seen. But yeah, we're 100% in line with our thinking of who will be the odd man out, and I think it is, unfortunately for him, McKissick.
Do you think so? I think that just having Gibson probably be our returner on punts will probably allow us to have 4 running backs, because usually I think who we had returning punts last year. I think we had a corner returning punts last year. So I think
it started out. It was Trey Quinn starting out, and then once he got banged up, we did have a corner. It might have been Stroman.
Yeah,
it might have been Greg Stroman.
It might have been Greg Stroman, but so it's gonna be interesting to see if it's gonna be Trey Quinn or Gibson returning punts. So I think that might lend its
Steven Sims and Wendell Smallwood.
Oh, yes, that's right. Steven Sims. Ugh. We're gonna be our wide receiver room too. We forgot about all these guys here. Steven Sims was he's the one that had the touchdown against the Patriots, wasn't he? That started us off 7-0. Yep. Yeah. So exciting players, guys. Exciting players.
Yeah, we absolutely. When we got some absolutely electric dudes coming in for this year. Like I said, all young, all dudes that can get it done. All dudes that have seen, some variation of success. I'm looking through the wide receiver room right now, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be real fun.
We still have Cam Sims?
Yep, Cam Sims is still on the roster. Obviously, Kelvin Harmon, he's going to be out this year. He's, with the injury, and he was one guy that I was really looking forward to. But obviously, Scary Terry, Touchdown Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gandy Golden, who is, if he's anything as advertised, he's going to be awesome. 6'4", 223. That's the other thing too. The Redskins have never really had a ton of size at wide receiver. We thought Josh Doxson might be that guy. He absolutely wasn't anywhere near that dude. But finally getting some size there with Antonio Gandy Golden is going to be great. The aforementioned Cam Sims, 6'5", another big dude. Steven Sims, he's a smaller dude, but he's a burner. Trey Quinn, slot guy, obviously. So there's going to be plenty of weapons that hopefully we can find a way to make them all gel and make a way to hopefully keep Dwayne Haskins upright so he can distribute the ball to all these weapons.
Yeah, all we need is a mad conductor for all these weapons. Like, we need a great point guard, because it sounds like we have a lot of playmakers out there, and a point guard that can get he can get this ball in these guys' hands, give them an open space, and really get the defense reeling. There's no telling what this Washington offense can do.
And you know what? It's I don't know if I'm doing this to myself again like I do every year, but it's like man, if like this might be the most, this honestly though might be the most balanced Washington football team we've seen in a long time.
Especially on defense. And you can even, what are your biggest question marks? I guess we can just tangent off that. What are your biggest questions? We already talked about defense. Let's talk about offense. What are your biggest question marks on offense? I'm going to start there and it might bring up something else that we might, I don't know if you're planning on hitting on that, but Logan Thomas has been reactivated. I know we had talked about him a couple weeks ago. I thought he was done for the year, but I guess you can come off that list, that COVID IR list pretty quickly. So he's off of it. So we have tight ends now. Logan Thomas, we have Richard Rodgers, we have Jeremy Sprinkle, we have Moss, obviously one that we're really excited about. My biggest question, I've been reading that Jerron Christian is really ready to step up as that starting left tackle, to step into the huge void that Trent Williams left. And great center, great right guard. I think that Morgan Moses has definitely shown signs of, other than stop getting those holding penalties in key situations. I think he's, but he's really been solid on that right side. I think our biggest, always that left guard position has been a haunting position for us. That left side, I should say, will be our biggest question mark, and tight end. What do you think?
Yeah, so I actually was gonna say offensive line is my biggest question because although Morgan Moses has taken a couple strides, he still can be a big question mark sometimes. Like I said, big time holding penalties in tough spots. Losing an All Pro perennial Pro Bowler left tackle is going to be huge. Jerron Christian, when he came coming out of Louisville, we thought that hopefully he could kind of jump in after a year or two of getting some more size on him and getting used to the NFL game coming out of a smaller school like Louisville, that he'd be able to make that transition. So we'll see there. But I do think offensive line, tight end, and I'm still going to put quarterback as a question mark on that list, just because we don't for sure know just yet. I'm not saying that I'm doubting Dwayne Haskins or his ability, but we still got to see if he is going to be able to be that dude for us. So I'm still gonna put him on the list. So if I have three question marks, it's going to be offensive line, it's going to be tight end, and it's going to be quarterback play.
Yeah, I mean the quarterback play. It's until just as you said, until Dwayne Haskins can prove he can get it done on a consistent basis, it is going to remain a question mark for us. And we did touch on it at the end of our last podcast about the Alex Smith and him coming back and what that might mean for Dwayne Haskins. And I think it can only be good for both of them. Like it's only going to drive to have more experience in that quarterback room as he's going to be there already. But to know that he can potentially come in on the field and take your position is going to drive Dwayne Haskins that much more to perform. Not to mention Alex Smith, he did not go through this whole journey to come there and hold a clipboard. He wants to go out there and show that he can still do it. He wants to complete this ultimate comeback story, which would be unprecedented to see Alex Smith back on the field when we sat there and saw his leg muscle bone with no skin on it. We literally saw Alex Smith's leg with no skin on it. I don't know if you've seen the picture, but it's for him to come back and even attempt to get on the football field is just a testament to the heart and the desire to compete that he has. And so, if he comes back and he's ready to go, and Dwayne Haskins is showing any signs of this inconsistency that we're alluding to, I wouldn't be surprised to see Alex Smith come back in. So.
Well, and see too, like Alex Smith is like you said earlier that we need a point guard, and I think he's like the ultimate point guard. I mean, he's going to be your John Stockton, where he's not going to make anything spectacular. He's not going to make any big time plays. He's going to make the right play and the smart play. Sometimes the conservative play that you're gonna, it's going to be 3rd and 10. He's going to throw it 8 yards. But so you got to take the good with the bad, because he's not going to turn it over a whole lot. So that's kind of how I justify it. He's not going to turn it over in a big spot, but he might not be able to push that ball downfield to get you the first down when you need it too. So I guess you could say those are both negatives, but I don't know.
Alex Smith is like he reminds me of like how you should live your life. Like if you think about it, in like put 10% of your paycheck into your savings. Like pay your bills exactly on the front. Like he just seems like the boring but do what you got to do to not make mistakes kind of guy. It's like it's like the advice that you give but you never take. Like Alex Smith is the advice you give but you never take.
That's a great way to put it. That's 100% way to put it. That's fantastic. So I mean, if he did get in there, good for him, because like you said, he's not coming back just to hold the clipboard and sit on the sidelines, literally. But I still want to make sure that Dwayne Haskins gets a fair shot and gets his chance to prove that he can be the guy. Morgan Moses, we mentioned him earlier. He said that the things he's seen from Dwayne Haskins so far, that he's lighting it up. He's obviously put in the work, and he's gotten bigger, stronger, a little bit faster, and so hopefully we have this young nucleus that can all kind of grow together and build something nice going forward. But until we see it get done by Dwayne Haskins, it's got to be a question there.
Yeah, and I think you could probably relate to this, as with your experience in coaching and whatnot, is that a lot of times you have this group of really good athletes that just need a leader, just need the right person to guide them in the right direction. And I heard an interview from Dwayne Haskins the other day, and he's talking about last year and his struggles and being thrown in there, and he was talking about towards the end of the year how he really realized what it meant to get in that huddle and really command that huddle and really drive the players to perform. And I think we saw an instance of that last year, that notorious sideline where he's yelling at the offensive lineman of what he could do to help them, and that's been and I think I heard the same thing come from Moses, echoing how he really is that commander in the huddle. And coming out of Dwayne Haskins' own mouth, he said he wants to be that type of Drew Brees, Tom Brady person in the huddle. When he talks to people, everyone stays quiet and listens. And if that's who he's emulating himself behind to try to reach that level of leadership, then I think the Redskins or the Washington football team will have give him the opportunity to either sink or swim.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I agree there. Like you said, we have the leadership at the top with Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, the guys that are coming in, and now the leader on the field. Like I said, Dwayne Haskins already got a vote of confidence from a couple guys, so hopefully he can fill that role and fill that void that we've been looking for so far. But again, yeah, that'll wait to be seen. Did you answer? Did you say what your biggest questions are? They the same as
Yeah, yeah.
mine?
I started off with guys. I
Yeah,
started off with remember the
yeah.
tight end position,
Mm-hmm.
the offense, the left side.
The left side, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't say quarterback. You threw that in there because I feel like it's gonna. I think that if we lose, it's not gonna be because of our quarterback play. That's what I should say. I don't think it's.
That'll be a nice change.
I think if anything, it's gonna be because we can't block, and we can't get the running game going, which again will affect the passing game. So I think it'll all start with it. It always starts in the trenches. If you can talk any football conversation, it always starts in the trenches. And on the defensive side of the ball, I think we're going to be great enough that our offense cannot lose games for us. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's why they say you're supposed to build teams from the inside out. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's where games are won and lost. So one quick note, real quick, and then we can get to our. Did you make your top 5 list of least favorite Redskins
Oh
ever?
yeah. Oh yeah. That's
Okay.
easy.
All right. Okay. Perfect. So before we get to that, you're gonna be hearing some new voices. If you listen to the Washington football team on the radio, I don't know how many of you do, but we knew that with Larry Michael being out after the controversy that we'd probably see some new faces, new voices there. Chris Cooley actually is out completely. He said he's no longer affiliated with the franchise, other than being an alumni. That's the only way. So that's kind of a head scratcher because he was only around for a few years, maybe 6, 8 years. I don't even know if it was that long.
It was.
Chris Cooley actually.
I was
Go
gonna say
ahead.
it felt like he'd been longer as a non-player, around longer as a non-player than he was a player.
I think he might have been, honestly. But funny story about Chris Cooley. My first quote unquote celebrity reply from Twitter. He's the first guy to ever reply to me on Twitter back in like 2009.
My first Redskin
But
autograph.
really,
Yeah, my first and only. I guess I only have 3. Oh no, was it Champ Bailey? I guess Champ Bailey wasn't officially a Redskin when he signed it. So he would my first Redskin that signed when he was a Redskin. So Champ Bailey signed it when he was a Bronco. But so.
I still think about when we were in LA and we were going to that Redskin rally. And I was like, yo, what jersey should I wear? I almost wore my Chris Cooley jersey, but then I wore my Art Monk jersey instead. And then who shows up? Chris fucking Cooley, and I was like,
Oh.
oh, I could have gotten to autograph it, but yeah,
And now he's
I'll
not
never
with the
forget that.
franchise, so I don't think we'll ever see him at a Redskins rally ever again.
Yeah,
Or a
exactly. Yeah,
Washington rally.
exactly. So yeah, I guess that was my first and only chance there. But so he's out completely as a radio voice, no podcast, nothing. He's not going to be affiliated with the team anymore. But the new radio team for Washington is going to be Bram Weinstein. Some of you might be familiar with him from his work at ESPN. He was on SportsCenter a lot. I didn't even know he was a Redskin fan or a Washington football team fan. So that's cool for him. I always like when I see big time, like your Scott Van Pelt's, oh boy, who's the fantasy? Matthew Berry. He's a big
Yes.
Redskins fan or big Washington fan. I always like seeing when big media guys are Washington football fans. And then D'Angelo Hall is also going to be the color guy for the radio, which that'll be interesting to see how he does on the radio call, because radio is tough because you really have to paint a picture for the fans that are listening to it. I actually love listening to football on the radio. It's one of my favorite things, that and baseball I love listening to on the radio. I used to do a radio show here on Sunday nights, and so when I was driving to the radio station, it was like Sunday, the last evening game, and then when I was driving home, it was a Sunday night game, and so I was always listening to it. It's always fun. So that's gonna be tough. It's a tough gig. I wouldn't wish it. I wouldn't want to do it, but so that's gonna be our new Washington radio call there with the changeover.
Well, I'm really excited to hear that D'Angelo Hall. I mean, he's someone that's kind of like you said. He had some good years with us here in Washington as a player, and he's always been a voice of reason. I think if you go watch him on NFL Network, and he always is very objective with his assessments of what's going on, and he's very well spoken. So I think it's good that we have somebody like that in the booth to represent what's going on in our field, and I think he'll be a very honest person who's not gonna bash either way. So I think that's a great opportunity for him. So I like radio football too.
Yeah, no doubt. And yeah, I think you said something good there, where it's like he's going to be a voice for a voice of the Washington football team, or a voice for them. And so that's what you kind of need for you need kind of a homer voice for the radio call when it's local radio. And I think both those guys are gonna be able to do it. So unfortunately, unless I like tune into like some kind of satellite, I won't hear it. But best of luck to them, and hopefully plenty of good calls on the way.
Hopefully we get some highlight. You know how they always play the radio
Yeah.
broadcast as the highlight reels. The Washington football team has won the NFC East. We hope it's D'Angelo Hall and some crazy voice you never heard of him before, as he's so excited. Like he always seems so calm, cool, and collected, unless he's yelling at unless he's yelling at Mike Smith on the sideline. But so it'd be cool to hear D'Angelo Hall hit that higher octave. Oh my God! It's like, man, we should really rethought this signing here. I didn't know D'Angelo could hit those notes.
No kidding. We might need to put a headphone warning in for anybody listening to this with headphones there, because you might have just gotten your eardrums blown out. A little preview there of what you might get on the radio call. I'll get.
I ain't doing any radio, I guess, anytime soon, because I'll be like, I can't have this guy. He mumbles and he screams.
And he'll do both in the same sentence.
Exactly. Sorry, guys. I promise I won't do that no more.
So we'll jump over to our list of 5 least favorite Redskins of all time. You go ahead, hit lead off this time. I feel like we're going to have some duplicates again, which has kind of been the case going forward. But I mean, it's really hard to when there's a guy that just is disliked by a lot of fans. I mean, you're gonna pop up on this list. So you go ahead and hit lead off here.
All right, I'm gonna go down. I always just start with 5 and go up to 1. I think we'll probably have a similar number 1 if we're thinking about the same person. But my number 5 is gonna be Patrick Ramsey. Patrick Ramsey. Why? Is because of the expectations we had bringing him in at the time. It was going to be the next great thing, the next big thing for our franchise. You know, I think he was our first round pick that year. I remember how high it was. He was high on the list though, and really never produced anything. I ended up in Miami, I think, or somewhere. I don't even know what happened to the rest of his career. The Jets. But he never really produced on the field. And I bought his jersey. I had his jersey. I had a Patrick Ramsey jersey. If I would have held on to that thing, I could have made it on the Good Morning Football show. Like weird jersey, you know that weird jersey segment. I don't know if you ever watched the show.
Yeah.
It's like, I know that guy played for the Redskins. But he's gonna be number 5, Patrick Ramsey. Number 4 is gonna be on the defensive side of the ball, and I think you alluded to him as well. And that's gonna be our his name has escaped me. Our the safety. You just said the
Reed Doughty.
Reed Doughty. I don't know how many times, a lot of these years, we haven't been in the playoffs, but a lot of these years it was just because of 1 or 2 games, that we be looking at the outside, looking in. And I don't know how many big games or big situations that Reed Doughty was just running around with his head cut off, and I don't know how many times I've despised a player for doing stupid things than Reed for just running around. So nothing to do with his character. Obviously, I don't know Reed Doughty. I don't know what he's done. He could be a great humanitarian out there doing great things. But on the football field, as a Redskin, I did not like him whatsoever. So number 4 is going to be Reed Doughty. Number 3, Josh Dotson. No, it's just a recent memory. Again, someone that we thought huge expectations for. I mean, one of my biggest heartbreaking moments, I think, that really destroyed our season that year. I'm going to say Alex Smith's injury. What was Alex Smith? It was a lot of things happened that season. But when he dropped that touchdown against the Chiefs on Monday night, that would have changed the perception of our team at that point. That Chiefs team was at that point I think we were 3-1 and they were undefeated. And they ended up, I think, winning the first 10 or 11. That was Alex Smith's last year there, Patrick Mahomes' rookie year. And that really, we had just come off a victory with the Raiders the week before in prime time. And that was a Sunday night game. And then we would have totally killed that prime time, curse we've had. And it was such a beautiful pass by Kurt, and Josh Dotson just dropped it. I think it was one of those moments that it's like, ugh. There's that moment. There's a moment when Drew Brees came against us and the Saints, but just that moment in particular really just, Josh Dotson. There's nothing you can ever do. So Josh Dotson, giving me bad memories. Number 3. you're on the list, and just and your the non-contribution to our franchise after being a high pick. We could have had so many other players at that position that year. Oh my God, that would be
Mike
producing for us.
Thomas. Mike
Michael
Thomas was taken in
Thomas.
the second round. Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
There's so many. I mean, I don't want to get the list. I don't want to kill myself here. But number 2 of Redskins of all-time Redskins that I despise is going to go back to the offensive side of the ball, and it's going to be our quarterback. What the heck was his name? Oh,
I think I might know because he's probably on my list too, but I don't know. I don't want to give it up.
oh, he's the one to give it up. I'm not going to say obviously it's not RG3 because we both had the one there, but it's what the heck is his name?
Gus Farrat.
Not Gus Farrat. It was
Oh, well, you know what am I now?
Gus Farrat had the notorious headbutt. That was probably one of the stupidest plays of all time.
Yeah. John Beck.
John Beck. Was it John Beck? Was he the one that was right around Kirk Cousins' time?
Yeah, it was him and Rex Grossman at the same time.
Rex Grossman? No, it wasn't Rex Grossman. He kind of had some good years there. I'm gonna hold on to that because I don't want to just throw somebody in there because as I think about my number 2, I jumped to my number 1 because I can picture his face, but I cannot remember his name. But my number 1.
Are you sure he's a quarterback?
It was when I was younger. It's been a long time, so it's.
Oh yeah, Heath Schuler.
Heath Schuler. There we go. Heath Schuler. Another one. It's like Patrick Ramsey and them almost like mix up together. But Heath Schuler, another one that came out of college, so highly touted. Is that the word you look right now? It's so highly touted. And he definitely did. I mean, do you have any memories of Heath Schuler whatsoever?
I do, and I think there's like a Sports Illustrated cover of him just getting like absolutely obliterated. I think it's Sports Illustrated or something like it's him just getting like just sacked, and that's like when I think of Heath Schuler, it's like him just getting blown up and just crushed, and yeah, I think he was like a top 5 pick for us. I think he's like an insurance adjuster now or something like that. Shout out to insurance adjusters, we need you, but still.
I mean, I saw him on one of those, what is it, like those Heisman things, those Heisman commercials. I think he was one of those guys that like, hey, what happened to these guys? But again, just like Ramsey, one of those people you thought was going to come in and change your franchise, did nothing. I had his number 5. He was number 5. I remember that one better than I remember the Ramsey jersey. The number 5, I think it was my first ever Redskin jersey that I actually had. You know, I didn't have one as a kid growing up. I don't even know if there was like a thing to have them or where you got them back then. But I never had one until I bought that with my own money. And he let down. So that's number 2. Number 1, and I think it's that. Yeah, it's got to be Fat Albert.
1,000%.
Fat Albert Hainsworth. Oh my goodness, what a from stepping on faces when he was it Tennessee or Houston? I don't even remember what team it was back then.
Yeah, it's Tennessee.
And then coming and being the first ever $100 million man in the NFL to do absolutely nothing. Cannot fail his physical, to not wanting to work out. Oh my goodness. What a waste of space. What a waste of money. I don't know if people can throw what's his name from the Raiders, DeMarcus Russell, into one of the biggest busts of all time, just because I think he's with the drafting. But someone that's in the NFL that got a huge contract. I don't know if you can find someone that's a bigger bust. They got a big contract once they're a free agent contract. I could sit here for a while, but Albert Hainsworth, what a I don't have anything nice to say about that guy as far as being a player or as a human being. What has he done since then? I haven't heard anything to do with Albert Hainsworth. But
yeah,
the time the money he took from our organization, the money he took, and the attention and all the crap he brought with him, he has to be number 1 on everybody's list.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I'll just go ahead and start off there. My number 1 is Albert Hainsworth too. He, absolutely robbed us. I mean, of course, it's Washington's franchise that has literally the number 1 worst free agent signing of all time. I think even like across sports, like the number 1 sports free agent worst signing of all time is that one right there. Couldn't run like a 40, couldn't run like 20-yard dash or whatever the heck it was to make sure that he passes his physical fitness test, whatever. And I don't know how much blame or credit Mike Shanahan should get. If it's a little bit of both or what it might be. But yeah, that was just a disaster from the jump, Albert Hainsworth. So because I mean, Shanahan was real. Like he wanted to make sure that like he wasn't playing unless he passed that test. And so, like I said, I don't know if he should get credit for that or if he should get some blame for that. But I think the blame should the majority, if not all of it, should lie on Albert Hainsworth. So that's my number one there for sure. My number five is also Patrick Ramsey. Like you said, we thought he was going to be a big time deal. Thought he was going to be it. There was another quarterback that he traded time with at that time, and I can't remember who it was. Shane Matthews, I think.
Shane Matthews, yes, for the Bears.
Yeah, so they came in. Patrick Ramsey, I think, was a Florida guy, Florida University or University of Florida, and he came in. We thought he was going to be the big time deal. Shane Matthews came in, and they kind of split time back and forth. Never panned out either way. Shocker, never does. But Patrick Ramsey is on my list. Reed Doughty is also on my list. He's on there as well. I mean, when I think of Reed Doughty, obviously the first thing that I do think of is he was the guy that had to come in after Sean Taylor's death. He had to play his position, and so that was kind of tough when they put 10 guys on the field. And then I forget who were they playing that game, like Buffalo. The Steelers or something. Buffalo. They ripped off like a 37-yard run, and I was like, "Come on, you guys couldn't just like take a knee or something, or like throw an incomplete pass to where Sean Taylor would have been. Like that would have been cool." No, they just busted off for like a 40-yard run, and then Reed Doughty had to go out on the field and fill those shoes. So that was a tough spot. But after that, the other thing I always think about is just seeing the back of his jersey and his arms out like this, trying to, because the wide receiver's gotten by him, and so his only hope is to put his arms out to hope that he can either pull an arm down or maybe get his hand on the ball. But it's never happening.
Like a chicken with his head cut off. That's what he always running around. He looked like a lost cop in a riot. Is what he looked like.
Yeah. So he is number 4 for me as well. That's why Troy Apke kind of gets a little hate from me, because they remind me of the same guy. But number 3 for me is going to be Gus Frerotte. Mentioned him earlier. Just never really him and Jeff George could kind of be interchangeable there. As my dog makes an interest, him and Jeff George can kind of be interchangeable there of guys that just came in and just absolutely did nothing for our franchise. So I put Gus Frerotte on there. Number 2 for me is Josh Doxson, and it's the reason because we had so much hype coming in. Jay Gruden was like, "Oh, this is AJ Green 2.0," which I mean that's a lot of pressure to put on a guy and a big name to put on a guy. He said he could have been that for us, was nowhere near it. But then a lot of that too is added because we could have had guys like Michael Thomas. We could have had plenty of other dudes. And so the good thing is there was 3 wide receivers taken in the first round, and I don't think any of that draft, and I don't think any of them are still with that team. So like Laquan Treadwell was taken by the Vikings I think right after Josh Doxson at pick 24. Mm-hmm. And I don't think any of them are still with their team. And then Michael Thomas is obviously like the second best wide receiver in the league. So, we can't be totally faulted, but a little bit of that hate drifts over from that. And then number 1, as we mentioned, Fat Albert Hainsworth. So
yeah, I remember distinctly wanting Jaron Reed that year that we got. I think it was Jaron Reed from Alabama that I wanted to get instead. Yeah,
it was.
Jaron Reed from Alabama that I wanted to get instead of he hasn't had a great career, but he's either I should say, but Josh Doxson definitely. I mean, how many times did we throw that stupid fade route on the
1,000? 1,000.
On 3rd and 1, I went on 1st and goal. We throw it 3 times and not even run once. Thinking that he's going to catch one of them. That's another thing I forgot to mention as you were talking about. I was like, how many wasted fade routes or goal line situations did we waste on Josh Doxson?
Yep. Yeah. It was not a great experiment there. And the other guys that I always think about when we mention wide receivers that never work out. I forget what year it was. It had to have been 2004. We took a wide receiver we took Malcolm Kelly from OU, who he's famous for his freestyle rap after OU won their bowl game or something like that. He talked about sipping on lean in the locker room. And then it was Malcolm Kelly and I think Devin Thomas from Michigan State. There were 2 big time wide receivers that we thought were just going to absolutely ball. They're going to come in and just tear it up. And neither of them did a damn thing. And so I don't have any hate for them because they never had the hype. They were like 2nd and 3rd round picks or like 2nd and 4th round picks. They didn't have the hype around them that Josh Doxson did. But they kind of fall in the same category of swings and misses that we had in the draft.
I mean, I remember it looked like a good 7 or 8 years. I felt like we had wide receivers that could not catch. It's like they could get open. I think Devin Thomas was one of the ones that could just get open every time. If you're wide open, they throw it to him and he would drop the ball. And it's just we talked about that. I think we talked about our favorite or whatever list we had a couple weeks ago when I was talking about Pierre Garçon. And this is always catching the ball. You know, it's such a thing to take for granted is always catching the ball. You know, and
well, you think as a wide receiver, it's like, oh yeah, that's easy. You know, that's what you're supposed to do, and that's not always the case. You know, unfortunately for a lot of guys.
Now when you got two guys coming at you, or thinking you're about to get hit, you know, and I recognize that so much, and especially watching the game with like my lady or whatnot, and she's getting better and better into football, more and more into football. But one of the first things, like, why didn't he catch that? That was either like because he heard footsteps. And she said, what does that mean? I was like, because he knew he was about to get smacked, so his focus was not 100% on that ball. His focus was on, I'm about to get my ass plowed.
No, yeah, for sure. Like, I don't know if I mentioned on the show, but I know I told you is like I started playing in a flag football league, and it's true. Like, we're not even getting hit, but like you're going up for a pass, or you see some guys coming towards you, and like you kind of lock up. You know what I mean? Like you don't think about like, oh shit, these guys are coming to nail me, but it's like, you know, you're bracing for the contact while also trying to catch the ball. Like it does throw you off. So I mean, mad respect. Obviously, I had the mad respect for these guys anyway, in the NFL. But like, and this is like on the very smallest level of any kind of taste of that this friggin' 25 and over flag football league. It's like the smallest taste of that you can get. But I mean, like you said, you hear those footsteps and you just kind of tense up for a sec, thinking like, you don't know what's going to happen. So, I mean, I get that 100% now.
Yeah, and anyone that goes out there and like receivers like Steve Smith, when I think about, or Anquan Bolden, I think probably personifies that more than anybody in the NFL.
Going across the middle.
Yes, going across the middle and knowing you're going to get laid out and not even batting an eye. Like you completely. I mean, because it's instinctual. Like we're not consciously thinking about hesitating. Our body is like going into like a self-preservation type mode, but like to be able to just like disconnect from that, like it seems like Steve Smith and Anquan Bolden seem to have done their career. Hats off to those guys. I mean, that hit that Anquan Bolden took that year where from behind
broke his jaw.
Yes, and was playing I think the next week or maybe 2 weeks later. Yeah. I mean that's some tough person right there. Yeah,
with some metal plates in his face or in his head. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yes, those Redskins right there, they probably would have done we would have been a lot better off without them on our team.
Absolutely, 100%. All right, well, I think that'll do it for us. Do you have anything left over for the people out there, Joe?
Nah, I think we got good content out today. Like you said, it was a more active week, and as we get closer and closer to the beginning of the season, hopefully it keeps ramping up, so we have some things to talk about. And as always, guys, send in your questions. I know we're still growing. We're still getting, more and more followers on Twitter and trying to get some subs on YouTube, but it's one of the hardest things to get. So please, if you have not subscribed to our Allies Behind Enemy Lines YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe button. And you'll be able to get and turn your notification bell on so every Thursday should be the day that we go live with a new podcast. So appreciate the support we have had, and we're going to keep going.
Ring that bell. I know that's what they always say on
ring that bell. Videos. Hit that bell.
Right on. So yeah, that'll do it for us for this week. Hopefully we have some more good news going forward for next week. Some news and notes. We got really kind of heavy into the roster today, kind of unexpected, but shoot, hey, that's what we kind of do here. Just kind of shoot from the hip and go with the flow. I think that's what kind of hopefully makes us a little bit different. You got to suffer through our aimless rambling sometimes, but or high pitched screams out of nowhere while you're listening with headphones. But it's always fun. Fun content and good conversation, just kind of thought-provoking stuff and things like that. So that'll do it for us for this week. We'll catch y'all next Thursday. I am Ryan. That is Joey. We are coming to you thoroughly behind enemy lines. Until next week.
Bye-bye.